with them. If you only have one question, then you're stuck in a very sometimes bad monogamous relationship that will make you angry. So, so any other questions? Abby? What do I think about what? The morality of having kids? Okay. Good then. So having children and then watching them get cancer. What else? Anyone else? Really? Like 25 young, fresh minds? Shanti?
Questions I definitely have one that it how to make it work. So practice self same person. Compromise yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so your question is, with someone, they're a horrible human being. I don't want to be around them, yet I'm like Jesus Christ. I want to exercise infinite amount of compassion, forgiveness. I want to put myself in their shoes. Therefore, I forgive them on a daily basis. Should I continue doing that or just get out and save my life? No. Let's just say that's your question. Anyone else? Joaquin? Okay. Alex?
One time I was thinking about like all this stuff like that. I was wondering if anything you would
Jeez. I think we, to some extent, talked about this on Tuesday, about having closure. So since you're talking about death a little bit, let me borrow from one of my friends. She's dead now. We were never intimate. We lived at different times. Her name was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She became fascinated with the idea and the fact of death. And so she devoted her life to people who were dying. And she wanted to understand what happens when you hear the news that you're going to die and the sort of process that you go through as death becomes closer and closer to you and eventually just consumes you. I think before you and I can talk about death, let's talk about, to some extent, what it just means to be a human being, you know? Because if you can understand some of the components that live inside the human beings and why walking away from a relationship, any relationship, whether it's your relationship with your companion or with a dog or a fish or with just life in general, what they all have in common is a relationship. And in all relationships, what you have is attachment. And what you also have is a history, that you have a history with your dog. You have a history with your mom. You have a history with, say, life itself. And to some extent, some of that history includes a good amount of imagination. In other words, I am almost 60. I have in my imagination I'm going to live another 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 20 years. I'm going to see my kids graduate from high school. I'm going to see them go to a 4-year school, see them get married, watch them, have kids, my grandkids, and then hopefully I'll die in my sleep without going through any pain. I also want to write a couple of books. I also want to teach a couple more classes. I also want to travel. So I have these hopes and dreams. So I'm not just talking about walking away from the physical life. I'm also talking about walking away from all the dreams and hopes you have in your head. So you have all these relationships happening all at the same time, okay? So the way things happen, and I'm not, again, don't just limit this to death. Imagine you have a companion. One morning you wake up at 2 in the morning and you ask yourself, whisper to yourself, what am I doing with him or her? I don't really want to be here. It's kind of going back to her question. Do I really want to stay in this? Intuitively, instinctually, reflectively, this is not where I belong. This is not the best companion for me. I can do better. Or maybe she can or he can do better. Okay? So you go through a lot of back and forth. First, you say, I've been with him for about 5 years, as I've been with my body and with my life and with my history and with my tradition for about 60 years. I don't want to simply walk away. Maybe I can find a way to make things work. Okay? So you're going to say, no, it's just a feeling that's going to pass. And so what the first stage that Kubler-Ross talks about is the act of denial. The truth is always, always, always difficult. It's always difficult to first talk about and then hear about. I'll tell you a story. Chris works at Zachary's. I had not seen him since this past summer when he kind of just visited my class, religion class, a couple times. And, he has a couple of master's degree. He's doing his PhD in philosophy and humanities. He's about almost 30. He taught at a few campuses, college classes. And then yesterday, after I saw him for like a few minutes, I said, so where are you teaching? He says, well, I don't have any classes this semester. Okay. Now, let me tell you how I met Chris. He came to my class just simply to sit, just to see how this class compares to, say, Cal. He had just graduated with a bachelor's. He was, 20, 21? And so when the class ended, he came up, we shook hands, he said, thank you. And then before he was about to leave, I said to him, what are you doing? Are you done with school? He says, yeah, I just got my bachelor's in philosophy from Berkeley, and I'm just taking a break. I'm just going to work at Zachary's and, make pizza, serve pizza. I'll do that for a few years. I'm tired of school. And then I'll go back to school after like a few years. The moment he said he's going to take a break, it took me back in time when I was 20. And when I said to my parents, no, I think I want to take a break from school. And all of a sudden, this red light went off in my head that the moment you take a break, that break is going to be about 10 years. You think that there is something really fascinating waiting for you out there. Nothing is waiting for you, especially if you're poor. And I don't mean poor with not having money. No education. You get old and you have no health care. You have no job. You have no savings account. You got no parents. You got no friends. You have nothing as a support system. And when I asked him, well, what are you going to do with a bachelor's in philosophy? And he said, well, I'll just talk to my customers. He's a very lucky man because he wasn't talking to an idiot. So, I waited and waited for everyone to leave in the class. Then I walked up very close to him. I put my hand around his neck. I kid you not, ask him. I pushed him against the wall, kicked him in the groin. Isn't that true? He still hasn't recovered. That was about 10 years ago. And I said, listen, you need to go to school ASAP. I don't know how you felt about this class, but if you want to come back to this class, I need to know that you're doing your master's. A couple weeks later, He signed up at San Francisco State. The moment he got done with his degree, he got a job at Laney. It's part-time, but it was an opening for him. Now, when it comes to teaching, I'm somewhat greedy. I like to teach as many classes because I'm really good at what I do. You know, you're not going to find an instructor like me. And I don't say this because I'm an ass. I say this because I'm an asset. Okay? So, now, I am greedy, again, for wanting classes to teach. So I run into Chris yesterday and he says, I'm not teaching any classes. All of a sudden, that comment makes me reflect on what it is I'm doing. I'm teaching 8 classes. Can I give one of them up for him to teach? Do I really want to be that greedy? He went to school because I forced him to go to school. He's young, he's ambitious, he's a dreamer, he likes to be in the classroom, he likes to teach. Add to it, he likes to make money. What young kid doesn't want to do that? And then as I was sitting, waiting for the pizza to come with my wife and kids, it kept bothering me. Should I sacrifice a class to give to Chris? I mean, that's about a good chunk of money that I have to give up. Then I have to ask, do I really need that money? Can I go one semester without having that extra money? And I ultimately came to the conclusion, yeah, just give up the class. I don't care if he remembers in the future. I don't care if he can pay it forward in the future. The truth is, the moment he said, I don't have any classes to teach, it was something for me to reflect on. And I contemplated, why should I care about Chris? I don't know him. Okay, so he came by the house a few times. We had some food. He helped me with the backyard. You know, we've been going back and forth, so-called friends, for the past few years. This is America, man. It's a vulturous environment. Let him struggle a little bit. It's not bad. At the same time, I do have the power to make some changes in his life. Should I do it? Should I make the sacrifice? So I try to create excuses. He's an American. He's never grateful. He will never be grateful. It's not because of him, it's just part of his culture. That's the way he's been wired. Do I really want to sacrifice money, family, power, so that someone who will eventually become ungrateful should benefit from? So I had to get rid of all that stuff. So hearing truth, seeing truth is really, really, really difficult. You know, there is this restaurant in Roseville. It's called not PF Chang, sorry. It's called Fats. Alex, I don't see you taking notes. I'm just kidding. Fats is a Chinese restaurant. It's got such good food and it's so expensive. Chow mein is about $30. It's cruel. You know, I mean, the way we do it in Roseville is we go and as a family, you know, there are 20 of us. And we spend like $500. Then we come home and then my nephew, who's very cunning, calls the restaurant and says, you know, we spent $500 on that food. It was okay, but that was bad and this was bad and that didn't taste any good. And the manager says, I'm really, really sorry. We'd like to keep you as a customer. So we're going to send your way about $300. Will that be okay? Yeah, it'll be okay. That's how you do it. Are you guys paying attention? That's the stuff you need to take notes on. And so they have a bathroom. Fats does. The lights are dim yellow or dim orange. The walls are black. The ceiling is red. Huge mirror. And whenever I look at my own reflection in that mirror, man, I just fall in love with myself. Because first, my vision is not pretty bad. I can't really see things very clearly. So when I look myself in the mirror, I look like 20. You know, I have a full set of hair and I have no wrinkles and I look young and fresh and alive. And so whenever I go to the bathroom at Fats, I just sit there for like, I don't know, 20 minutes. Marvel at my own beauty. And then, of course, I go to the table because I can't keep my parents waiting. And I eat. Sometimes I overeat. Then I go home to my parents, stay the night there, and I go to kind of, use the restroom, wash my face, and then I turn on the light. It's bright. And everything is white in that bathroom. And I look at myself, I said, this can't be me. I looked so good at Fats. How can I look this bad? My face looks bad. The wrinkles are much more pronounced now. I look tired. And then I try to stay not very long in that bathroom. I get out very, very quickly. So you need to understand that the idea that speak the truth and the truth shall set you free is not true. For you to be set free, you have to go through a lot of different emotions, and oftentimes it's very, very difficult. Shanti in the back asks, and this is just a hypothetical, it's not about you. I've been with this man for about 5 years. I don't really want to stay. Should I stay or should I go? I mean, it's 5 years of history, man. You lay next to someone for 5 years, your body gets addicted. You go home and there he is. Whether he's drunk or high, it's irrelevant. You sit, you eat food together. He talks, you laugh. Maybe he talks and you cry. But regardless, it's like a pet. You get attached to it. So even if she was to come to the truth that she doesn't need to be in the relationship, by the time she gets out, it'll be 5 years. It's really, really tough. So Kubler-Ross argues whenever reality hits you, you deny it. No, I'll make this work. He may be a drunk, but I'll heal him. He's abusive, but I'll keep forgiving him and hopefully he'll understand. The truth is, if you weren't cunning enough to deny certain aspects, certain truths of your life, you wouldn't be able to survive. It's impossible. Consider the following. When you eat food and the food happens to be really, really delicious, well, it's only from, say, the beginning of your tongue to near the end of your tongue. That's where your taste buds are. That's all it is. Add to it the memories you have of, say, like Zachary's Pizza. We drove yesterday for an hour and a half to get to Zachary's. Why? Memory. Long time ago we had Zachary's, it tasted really good, and that memory pushes us towards Zachary's, in traffic, all that stuff. And then we wait 45 minutes. For what? Pizza. Now imagine if you were to say, well, let's just stay home. Cream cheese and bread. Forget cream cheese, just bread. Food is food, right? And then you have to kind of ask yourself, do I really want to drive all the way to Zachary's? I mean, it takes time, it takes energy. Don't you want to inject some value in time, in energy? Do you really want to be that callous? Are you like a prostitute of your taste buds? You want to drive all the way over there? For what? A 10-minute experience? Do you really want to do that? You wouldn't survive life if you were to kind of look at everything in a very honest way. So you deny. And sometimes you deny without even being aware. You just look the other way. Nayon? Well, it was only 20 minutes. Yeah. It just felt like an hour and a half. I mean, when you're sitting in a car with your wife and kids, it just feels like weeks. Sometimes months. Yes, it's like this class. It's only an hour and 15 minutes, but sometimes it feels like 10 hours.
Sometimes it feels like.
Then there, yes. What was your name? Janai. How old are you?
I am.
By the way, if sometimes I ask questions and they're a little too personal, I apologize. Answer them nevertheless.
5 is single mother.
2 is the father around? Again, if the questions are personal, you don't need to answer them.
I like the way you
Okay.
calls every morning. To send them off to school.
Does he see them?
He calls it FaceTime.
Oh, FaceTime. Okay. That's not bad.
He decided life became too much for him, and he found other solutions that didn't coexist with the family structure.
Oh my God. You have a way with words. I don't like it. I'm just kidding.
But I wanted to double back on the,
Yeah.
basically you were saying kind of something as far as is ignorance is bliss, or would it be more self-denial is key?
It depends on your capacity. Let me kind of give you this hypothetical scenario. Imagine for a moment that you and I were to go out. Okay. You're jealous. I'm just kidding.
It's just
Now,
funny you use examples every time of an analogy is like you married or dating or one of, hypothetically.
Because would you say romantic relationships are one of the most important? Because you do reference
they
to
suck. They are the least important, the least valuable, and yet we have no choice but to be in them. It's like you hate being in the bathroom, but you just have to shit. What can you do? Forgive me for being so poetic. I've read a lot of Shakespeare. There are 2 things. Janai, let's say we're sitting at the table and the waiter or the waitress comes and says, what do you want to drink? So, a beer is good. And you say water because you're health conscious. 10 minutes later, anything else I can give you? I said, yeah, another beer. 10 minutes later, another beer, please. And then you look at me and say, you drink too much. And we both laugh. But that doesn't push you to leave the restaurant and just go home saying, I've been here, I've done that, I don't want to hang out with people like this. Or, the moment we sit, I say, listen, Janai, I just need to tell you, I drink every day. And sometimes I'm buzzed, often I'm just drunk. I just need to let you know right now so you can decide for yourself what you want to do. Now, you may think it's black and white, the decision is easy for you to make, but that's actually not true. See, here's the thing you need to understand, Janai. Imagine for a moment that I was 40, not 60. And imagine that for a moment that I'm a really, really good-looking man. Do not underestimate the powers of your sight. When you look at me and you see how attractive I am, you begin to imagine things. Your senses come to life. You begin to imagine a future with me, whether for a week or a night or 10 years, doesn't really matter. And now the thing with your senses is that they generate intense emotions. And now you have this battlefield inside. I feel really good about him, and I think I can fix him, but my intellect says he's a scumbag. Leave immediately. There is another very complicated component that's involved. It's called sociability. You called me, you invited me to go to Zachary's. You got ready, I got ready, we are here now. It's rude for you to just walk out. And what's going to happen in the next, say, 2-3 hours that we sit as I keep drinking and we talk? You're going to become more interested, more fascinated, more attached. And then when you leave, you're driving home alone or maybe together, who the hell knows these days, right? You're going to say to yourself, he drank, but I really, really like him. Nothing that deals with human beings is simple. Nothing is. You know,
Am I ignoring the fact that he's drinking, ignorance is bliss, or am I lying to myself that this is still?
you and I have been in relationships with a variety of different people. Do you send your kids to public school? Do you like Oakland? I'm sorry?
I like my areas.
Do you like Oakland? Allahu Akbar. God help me. Let me ask for the third and final time. And I need to hear an answer that pleases my ears. Do you like Oakland?
Yes, I love Oakland.
It's dirty, it's smelly, it's chaotic. It was categorized as the third most violent city in America a few years back. And here's the other thing. You love Oakland for all the wrong reasons. How old are your kids? Allahu Akbar. You have kids? Do you like them? As a mother, that's a good answer. Do you love him?
Yes.
Well, no, actually, you love him. You don't like him. You love him. And you have to tolerate them for the next 40 years until they become mature. Now, here's the thing about public schools in Oakland. They're really, really bad. You know, as a mother, you worked so hard to make sure their language is clean. Public education doesn't help you in that area. You worked so hard to make sure that your kids don't ever get near drugs, don't see drugs, don't smell drugs. That hasn't worked out too well for you either. You've tried to make sure that they don't think about sex or the opposite sex or the same sex until they're 95. That hasn't worked out too well either. You've tried to make sure that when they're around adults, that they're on the right adults. Those who speak well, act well, think well. That hasn't worked out for you. Since none of that stuff has worked out for you, as a mother who has had no choice but to put her life on hold for 5, 6, 10, 20 years to make sure that their kids, her kids, grow to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit, the only reason why you have survived Oakland is denial. You want honesty? Pack up your stuff, move to Roseville. You don't need private schools. Roseville has great schools. Go to Montclair. The only problem is you need money. If you have money, get rid of your friends in Oakland. Just move. Friends come and go. They mean nothing. We say in Persian that kids are your cane. They are your walker in your old age. If your kids, like Pinocchio, if they hang out with the wrong group of people, you have no idea what's going to become of them. You may lose them. All of life is about probabilities. If you go to Domino's, will they give you a good pizza? Or if you go to Zachary's? Zachary's. There is a chance that Domino's may surprise you, but that is 1%. Zachary's, consistency. It's going to be good 99 out of 100 times. Sure, it'll be $10 more, but it'll be worth it. You'll have to wait another half hour more, but it'll be worth it. You have no choice but to be in Oakland because you deny. And there are a couple of reasons as to why you deny. You either don't think, or you think, you feel, and it's too much. So you close your eyes, look the other way. The problem with you beginning to think and then reflect and then have those sets of emotions out of reflection, every single day you're going to wake up burdened. Oakland, Roseville. Oakland, Roseville. And eventually one will win. And the only way Oakland will win is when you stop giving a shit about your kids. And you say, you know what? I love Jesus. He's my Savior. I believe in God and I have faith. God will protect my kids. Think like a hippie. See how far that'll take you. The problem with Roseville, if you were to move, or any new place that's safe, clean, is that it's going to take your mind, your body, your emotions about 2, 3, 4, 5 years to adjust. We are creatures of habit. You're going to see people you won't like. 90% of Roseville is Caucasians, i.e. white. Are they going to look at you weird? Yeah, you shouldn't care about that though. You're there for your kids. It has its own issues, Roseville does. But instead of worrying about your kids 10 hours a day, in Roseville you worry about them 5 hours a day. That'll give you less wrinkles, less ulcer, less anxiety, less confusion, less fear, less anger. Everything we do in life, we do so because we deny. Either because we're stupid or we see it hurts, we close our eyes. You know, I've been in education for about 30 years. In the past, say, couple of decades, education has come up with SLOs, student learning outcomes. You sign up for a philosophy class. When you leave at the end of the semester, you should know a thing or two about Plato, about what epistemology is, what knowledge is, what information is, what data is, what wisdom is, supposedly. And so the assumption is the reason why someone like Jesus was a complete failure, why someone like Malcolm X was a complete failure, is because they didn't have SLOs. They should have gone before their audience, someone like Jesus, before giving a sermon. He should have handed out these pamphlets. When my sermon ends, you're going to learn A, B, C, D. But you see, as instructors, as educators, you can't think like that because your job becomes irrelevant. You know how difficult it is for an instructor to come to class, look at the students and say, there's a good chance that none of you will learn anything. 2 reasons. First, you don't really have the capacity and you don't have the resources. Second, I can't teach you anything. Well, if that's the case, why am I here for? Why am I getting paid? But that's not how we function. We say, you guys are going to learn so many wonderful things. Well, you may have information. Applying the information is a completely different story. See, she has information. He drinks too much, smokes too much, screams all the time, is never home, is abusive. That's good information. Well, how the hell do you apply that to your life? Because that means you walk away. How do you do it? You can't. You deny.